down, so I guess you're all screwed, because the NCPD will not let that go. Got another blackout in Santo Domingo.
Le jeu il est bien, mais s'il est bugué, ça va tout niquer en fait. Hein.
And in Pacifica, well, Pacifica is still Pacifica. This has been your man, Stan. Join me for another day in our city of dreams.
But has had less space for rising Democratic stars and representatives of the party's liberal wing. This is prompting opposition not just from Republicans, but also from some of the Democrats and liberals who kept Biden united during the general election campaign. And here is where it's going to break down to prepare thyself. So Time Magazine,
everyone, feels great to have you back.
Decided on its
Did y'all hear about that Arasaka aircraft carrier docked in Night City called Fujita or the Whale?
Right, much maligned big pharma.
Apparently the court figured it wasn't safe in Japanese waters. Afraid some local fishermen might harpoon it for scientific research. But honestly, it's quite the power move. Wonder what Militech will respond with. Maybe Myers will fly a Russell B-17 Flying Fortress over Arasaka HQ.
Ah, ou peut-être c'est la vitesse du jeu en fait qui fait bugger. Vu qu'on l'a, nous on l'a pas, mais eux ils l'ont peut-être. Ça aussi je me dis. Ils ont un SSD. Non mais pourquoi ils ont pas attendu, wesh? Ouais mais bon, ils auraient dû repousser comme ça.
Those are great accomplishments in this race. Really, because she's not black and she's not a woman, there's no way in hell Joe Biden was elected.
Mr. White here. Back to the nearest store for a taste of sweet, 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 clean speed. Because life is too short to be slow. In a city tingling with desire, don't do anything to scratch it.
Good evening, Night City. My first guest tonight.
Bug.
Forgot earlier. A runner I know has something you could probably use. Zip in your deeds.
And that's in John Adams' famous phrase. It's a useless office, essentially. The vice presidency. He's basically just president in waiting. Joe Biden, every time he's with the media, you ought to have that taste of it. You just remember he's sitting there in the room, they got a blow dart in the back. Great, Kamala's president now. And that's where this is going. They cannot wait.
Third time.
Kamala Harris on the cover of Time magazine.
Paid to get it fixed the last two. Gotta be some kind of scam.
Get rid of this guy. They're so
You can have a word with super. Oh yeah.
Because Biden seems to still be, in some ways, an institutionalist. I say in some ways, because he's not overall institutionalist.
Ouais, quand tu manges de ça, les plus de parler. Hein,
you got to give credit where credit is due. When Joe Biden said, in this sort of stealth phone call that he was doing with community activists and all this, he said in the phone
bah non, mec, il me reste que le dernier temps. Mec, il me reste que le dernier tueur à faire. Bah mec, je suis à la fin. Hein. Je suis, en plus, il y a ces Bartman qui est sorti. Bah mec, franchement, c'est à voir. Hein. Bon, vas-y, on va sortir de son truc parce que là, c'est des sourires. De quoi? Bah vas-y, écoute, hein, me cassez pas les couilles. Hein. Moi je ferai mes trophées quand je vous... Qui salope? Parce que moi il me reste rien. Que vous ouvrez vos gueules, mais vous reste encore beaucoup à faire. À part celui-là qui va être long, le 200, même tu prends un coup, le reste c'est easy quoi. Genre, c'est quelle manière il dort lui, wesh, il est sérieux là? They don't want to abide by, right? They say that they like those institutions, then if they have to break them, then they break them. Okay, but Democrats are pushing Biden really hard on this stuff. He is not, I have serious doubts that Joe Biden is going to be a great bulwark here. According to the New York Times today,
Joe Biden is facing pressure from congressional Democrats to cancel student loan debt on a vast scale quickly and by executive action in the campaign. That will be one of the first tests of his relationship.
Ouais, je crois qu'il n'y a pas de mode difficile.
I might have caught something. I jagged into that corpo's bile mine. No, neurovirus. Need to see Vic. Let him tell me what's got my head reeling, my stomach churning.
Okay,
Oh,
let me
ça va.
take you. I brought you a ride. Throw on some threads, meet me downstairs.
Disreputable American Federation of Teachers as well as the NAACP have joined the push. There are a lot of people who came out to vote in this election who frankly did their last shot at seeing whether the government can really work for them, said Representative Pramila Jayapal, Democrat of Washington, chairwoman of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. If we don't deliver quick relief, it's going to be very difficult to get them back. So Joe Biden has said that he does not want to do this. He wants to do this through legislation. Now, this is why I think that secretly, if you're Joe Biden, you got to be praying that the Democrats lose the Georgia Senate races. Seriously, because then you get to claim that you were doing your best, but that you didn't get anything done. The economy does really well because you can't wreck the economy with the Democratic majority in the Senate pushing a bunch of stupid crap. And then you get to claim that to your progressive base you're doing the best.
Ah ouais, c'est là tous les armes et tout. Ok, je
You get all
vois.
the benefits of Republican governance with none of the
On va voir
costs.
ce que je peux faire là.
And like if you're Joe Biden, that's what you're hoping for.
Ah
I don't think that he's gonna
ouais,
do that. I
les
don't think that
armes.
Joe Biden is going to be the bulwark of normalcy and institutional fealty. I think the chances that if Democrats were to gain the Senate in Georgia, they nuke the filibuster are 100%, which is why Republicans should go out and they should vote in Georgia en masse. And by the way, the data suggests that that's what Republicans are doing. They're not being dissuaded by Lynn Wood and other grifters. I mean, that is a grift move. Okay, as soon as you say you should not vote for Republicans in a Georgia Senate election and let Raphael Warnock become a member of the Senate because you're angry about Georgia's election procedures, you have now joined a grift. Okay, that is a grift move. I understand that people are angry. I get it. I do. But that does not mean that you simply cede the seat to a radical Democrat Marxist. That's a nutty idea. But it's why Republicans need to hold the Senate. If you're Joe Biden, honestly, your best shot at life may be a Republican Senate. But Joe Biden is not going to be the guy who stands for institutional normalcy for all. I have serious doubts that he is going to be exactly the sort of bulwark that he claims that he is going to be. Now, meanwhile, the Hunter Biden story continues to move forward. That Hunter Biden story is finally being, you're allowed to cover it now. That's exciting stuff. Isn't that fun? So the New York Times says the investigation of Joe Biden's son is likely to hang over Biden as he takes office. Why, wouldn't it have been nice if the investigation of Joe Biden's son had actually been covered, before the election? Wouldn't that have been a nice, good thing? Well, now the New York Times is covering it because the election's over, gang. As I pointed out yesterday, your media are just the PR wing for the Democratic Party. Now it is safe to talk about the fact that Hunter Biden is corrupt as the day is long and was trafficking in daddy's name, and everybody knew about this for years, including Joe Biden. Now we can talk about it. So the New York Times says, the newly disclosed federal tax investigation into his son will test President-elect Joseph R. Biden's stated commitment to independent law enforcement, while leaving him in a no-win situation that could prove distracting at best and politically and legally perilous at worst. Unless President Trump's Justice Department clears Hunter Biden of wrongdoing before leaving office, the new president will confront the prospect of his own newly installed administration deciding how or whether to proceed with an inquiry that could expose his son to criminal prosecution. Already, some Republicans are demanding a special counsel be appointed to insulate the case from political influence, which would be the gift that keeps on giving. I have a feeling that will happen before the end of the Trump administration, if indeed it comes to an end on January 20th. I have a feeling that a special counsel will be appointed so that Joe Biden can't simply come in and quash the case against his son. And by the way, anybody who suspects that Joe Biden wouldn't do that, that he's so institutionally loyal, that he'd be like, yeah, just go ahead with your prosecution there of Hunter. I'm sure that's exactly what would happen with Joe Biden. On the campaign trail, meanwhile, Biden excoriated Trump's efforts to use the FBI and DOJ to go after his enemies, but the reality is, of course, that it is the FBI and the DOJ acted independently of Trump. So much so that the DOJ did not announce the investigation until now. The DOJ had suggested it was a covert investigation, which is kind of crazy considering that there was already news of this investigation floating around in October. Right? There are rumors that this investigation was floating around in October, and the FBI and DOJ just refused to confirm it because they didn't want to get involved in the election, which is crazy because that's called getting involved in the election. But in any case, the FBI and DOJ are indeed investigating Hunter Biden, and now we are allowed to cover it. Meanwhile, Team Biden is running from this. So Joe Biden was asked specifically about Hunter Biden, and the reporter who asked was immediately shooed out of the room the other day.
Dr. Biden, one thing on the reaction to the news of the investigation of your son.
Thanks.
Let's go.
Goodbye. Catch you later. See you later. Now, remember, it was Donald Trump who's a threat to the freedom of the press. But ask a question of Joe Biden and you will immediately be ushered outside of the room if you are a reporter. Also, quick flashback here. Remember how the media covered this thing in the first place? Remember when Christiane Amanpour suggested there was literally no evidence of Hunter Biden's corruption on CNN? Very trusted journalist over at CNN. This was solid stuff.
You're okay with our interests being sold out to profit Joe Biden and his family when we're suffering during a pandemic from communist China? He's doing shady business deals with communist China. You're comfortable, okay?
As you know perfectly well, I'm a journalist and a reporter, and I follow the facts. And there has never been any issues in terms of corruption. Now, let me ask you this. Yesterday, the FBI...
Wait. How do you know that?
I'm talking about reporting and any evidence.
Reporting in any evidence. Oh, yeah, it turns out that he's been under federal investigation since 2018, which is why it is so rich. I just have to point out our esteemed journalistic colleagues over at CNN. It is so rich and wonderful that Kate Baldwin of CNN, and one of their anchors, she put on a sweater on air Thursday. It said on it, in pink writing, facts first. Because now we are just in the position of posturing. Journalists are in the position of posturing as though this is what they do. If you have to say that as a journalist you're facts first, that means that everybody suspects that you're not. It also happens to be particularly rich, not just that she wore this obnoxious sweater, which is a sweater designed to say, I am better than you. It's really a sweater designed to alienate everybody. But also that this was immediately put online for sale by lingua franca for $380. So, if you too wish to mirror the journalistic priorities of CNN, then you can buy a $380 sweater in the middle of an economic downturn and a pandemic so that you can look like Kate Baldwin on CNN talking about facts first on a network that routinely ignores facts. Solid stuff right there. And then they put up, did lingua franca, a little poem. So it was like a haiku of stupidity over at lingua franca. It said, smoke with true red embroidery, 100% cashmere, hand-stitched in New York City. Facts are facts. They aren't colored by emotion or bias. They're indisputable. There is no alternative to a fact. Facts explain things, what they are, how they happen. Facts are not interpretations. Once facts are established, opinions can be formed. And while opinions matter, they don't change facts. We stand with our friends at CNN, who start with the facts first. Also, you're going to need to allow 2 to 3 weeks for the embroidery plus shipping time, 1 to 3 days. $380, so that you too can look like a reporter on a garbage news network that promulgates opinion as fact and then pretends that they're facts first. My goodness, CNN, what a mockery they are, and what a mockery they continue to be. Systemic trust in the media, distrust in the media continues to be at all-time highs, as well it should be. Okay, now, I would be remiss if I did not mention that there is some good news in the country. The NIH director announced that Americans may start receiving vaccinations on Monday for COVID-19. The FDA is supposed to approve this thing over the weekend. The tranching is supposed to start with people in nursing homes, as it should. It's also going to start with frontline healthcare workers, as it should, because you don't want healthcare workers in hospitals getting infected and then infecting other people in the hospital who do not have coronavirus. This should be tranched out according to health condition, where it should start with people, not even by age, but by pre-existing health condition, and then tranched out over the course of the next few months. This is all happening under the Trump administration. Joe Biden deserves zero credit for this. Zero, zero, zero. And watch, the media will try to provide him with credit, as though he has come up with a plan here. At no point has Biden or anybody else in the Democratic Party come up with a plan here. This is a Trump administration masterstroke, Operation Warp Speed. Trump deserves every single bit of credit here. Democrats deserve essentially none. I mean, this is the president's largest initiative. It is the most powerful scientific initiative undertaken by the United States in all likelihood in history. The only thing that could possibly mirror it is attempting to land a man on the moon. But it is amazing stuff. Here was the National Institutes of Health director announcing that Americans may start their vaccinations on Monday.
When you say very soon and very soon, do you mean, today's Thursday, do you mean we might see shots injected on Monday? Is that reasonable?
D'accord.
It's entirely possible. I don't want to preempt the FDA. They're going to need to look at the comments that were made today by this advisory committee.
Qu'est-ce que tu t'en bats les couilles?
Okay, meanwhile, how are the media covering this? Well, MSNBC was having on an analyst to suggest that the GOP is using COVID to kill people. This guy. Here he was.
The real blame here is Mitch McConnell, is the Republicans, is the
president is a party that does not want to help people, that is working on one side to actually make sure the pandemic kills as many people as possible. That seems to be the logical consequence of their policy. And then to make sure that all the people who manage to survive it, despite their policy, suffer economically and beyond.
Solid analysis there from Anand Giridharadas, who is a commentator for MSNBC, that their goal is to kill as many people as possible. Really, really good stuff, which is presumably why the Trump administration has developed the fastest vaccine in the history of humanity, and hundreds of millions of doses will be put out there within the next couple of months. By the way, speaking of news that the media largely downplayed, yet another peace deal was signed in the Middle East yesterday. Full normalization of relations between Israel and Morocco. This makes the fourth country to sign normalization of relations with Israel over the course of the last 6 months alone. According to the Wall Street Journal, Israel and Morocco agreed to normalize relations. President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu said Thursday, marking another advance in U.S. efforts to strengthen ties between once hostile nations in the region. This is the Wall Street Journal reported. The U.S. brokered deal was the fourth in 4 months between Israel and Arab countries that have refused to recognize the nation since it was created in 1948. Netanyahu said this will be a very warm peace, adding that Israel and Morocco would quickly set up liaison offices and introduce direct flights between the two countries. A Moroccan official didn't comment on any agreement to recognize Israel while welcoming Trump's declaration of Rabat's sovereignty over Western Sahara, which is a departure from decades-long U.S. policy. Basically, Western Sahara is a giant desert. There are about 600,000 people who live in the entirety of the Western Sahara. It's been under dispute for decades. Morocco has had effective control of it. The United States sort of recognizes Morocco's sovereignty over that area. And meanwhile, Morocco signs a peace deal with Israel. Okay, the entire Biden foreign policy makes no sense. It continues to make no sense. If there were any justice in the world, Trump would win the Nobel Peace Prize. He's made 4 separate deals in the Middle East in an area where no one could make a deal other than America surrendering to Iran over the course of the last 20. That's an amazing accomplishment. Naturally, the media made Kamala Harris the person of the year along with Joe Biden for being a human on the cover of Time magazine. All right, so just to finish this week, I thought that I'd bring back a little bit of Bible talk. Because, you know, I think that there's some important things to be learned from the world's most important document. It is, by numbers, the world's most important document. Also, fun statistic. The #1 most stolen book on planet Earth is the Bible, which sort of defeats the purpose. In any case, the portion of the Bible that the Jews read this week is the portion discussing the Joseph story, the beginning of the Joseph story anyway. You'll remember that Joseph is the son of Jacob. Jacob has 12 sons, and Joseph is tossed in a pit by his brothers. This is the subject of the musical Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat. Right, that's the so Joseph gets tossed in a pit. He's eventually sold to a band of traveling Midianites. He ends up in Egypt, where he ends up in jail eventually, and then ends up becoming essentially second in command to Pharaoh. After which he reunites with his brothers. That's sort of the short form of that particular story. But there's another story embedded in the Joseph story that's kind of important. The reason it's important is because it discusses one of the other brothers. So to understand why this brother is important, you have to understand that in subsequent Jewish history, the kingdom of Israel gets divided. If you read the Tanakh, or in Hebrew, they read the writings and the prophets in English, what you see is in subsequent Jewish history, after King David, there's King Solomon. Then after King Solomon, the kingdom starts getting divided. Right? King Solomon has a son, there's rebellion against his son, and eventually the kingdom of Israel splits up into the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah. Right? This is why Jews are called Jews, right? It's after Judah. Right? They're not called Israelites, they're called Jews. Okay, so who is Judah, right? Who is Yehuda in the Bible, right? Who's, again, in Hebrew, Jews are called Yehudim. So Judah's obviously a pretty seminal character. So who is he in the Bible and what makes him special? What distinguishes him from his brothers? After all, he was the 4th son of Leah. He's not the firstborn. He's not the oldest. He's not even the firstborn among the children of his mother, because Jacob has 4 wives to produce children, right? He has 2 handmaidens, and then he also has 2 wives. In any case, Judah does not look like the guy who's going to be the leader. Right? Maybe Joseph will be the leader, he's the most clever. Maybe Reuben will be the leader because he's the firstborn. Instead, it ends up being Judah. And to understand why that is, we have to understand one specific quality of leadership that Judah has, and that makes it possible for the tribe of Judah to sort of be the leading tribe, because the idea in Jewish thought and also in Christian thought is that the leadership of Israel will come from the tribe of Judah. Okay, so the story of Judah begins basically when Judah decides that he is going to prevent Joseph from dying by selling him into slavery. So what happens is that Joseph has all of these dreams, and the dreams seem to suggest that he is going to predominate over his brothers. And his brothers are like, this is a threat to us. Our father prefers Joseph over us. We're afraid that Joseph is going to take revenge on us, and so let's kill him. And so there are 2 ideas that are put forth. One is put forth by Reuben, who's the firstborn, And Reuben's idea is we are going to, Reuven, his idea is that we are going to throw him in a pit. I'm going to come back later. I'm going to get him out. Right? We're not going to kill him. We're not going to, like, he doesn't say this to his brothers. He has this idea that he's going to save his brother Joseph from anything bad happening to him. So instead of just killing him outright, we'll throw him in a pit. That way we're not directly responsible for his death. If he dies in the pit, he dies in the pit. What we have done. And then I'll come back later and we'll get him out of the pit. Judah instead says, okay, what we're going to do is we are going to throw him in the pit, but then he says, what is the gain if we slay our brother and cover up his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, but our hand shall not be upon him, for he is our brother, our flesh. So the idea is that we're not going to kill him at all, we'll sell him into slavery. Okay, and Reuben comes back, Joseph's been sold, and Reuben starts mourning. And he says, the boy is gone, and where will I go? Right? I'm responsible. What's going to happen to me? And so they all decide that because they're afraid that Reuben is going to bear the consequences of Joseph being sold into slavery, that they are going to cover this thing up. And they take the dream coat, the Technicolor dream coat, and they put blood on it. And then they go back to Jacob and they say, our brother got killed. And Jacob goes into mourning. So that is the first instance we see. That Judah is
putain, j'aurais dû prendre ça.
From his brothers,
furtif, mais ouais. Et ça aussi, là.
Okay, the second thing that we see about Judah.
Qu'est-ce que tu veux, ta gueule, toi? Qu'est-ce que tu veux, ça? Qu'est-ce que tu veux?
So Judah, like a little bit later, like right after this in the Bible, it says, at about that time that Judah was demoted by his brothers. That he was now looked into.
Plus de majeur rendez-vous, là, sa mère.
So he turned away and he came to an Adulamite man named Hira, and Judah saw the daughter of a merchant named Shua. He took her and he had.
En ce moment, il faudra bien faire le zombie, mais je rendez-vous, tu vois.
Marries a woman named Tamar. Okay, and that kid dies. Tamar marries the brother. This is combination practice. Tamar marries the brother. That second brother dies. At this point, there's another brother, and Judah says, "You know what? I don't want him to marry the youngest brother, right? Because she obviously is kind of a black widow here, and whatever happened to the first two brothers will likely happen to the third brother. I don't want all my kids dead."
Ah, regarde ma belle. Ah ouais, je vois les bugs, putain. Maman, elle a spawn 10 ans après, wesh.
Somebody from the family has to marry her, so it ought to be Judah. So in this really bizarre
situation, sont où mes cheveux, wesh? C'est quoi le délire?
On the side of the road, and she has sex with Judah, who doesn't recognize her, and she conceives by him. And then later she comes around. He hears that she's pregnant, and people come to him. He's like, "Okay, well, ancient times, death penalty for this sort of thing." And they bring Tamar to him, and she, instead of saying, "You know, this is your kid," she instead presents his signet ring to him, which he had given her as payment. And he, instead of going ahead with the ruse, he says, "She's right. The child is from me because I did not give her to my son." And then she ends up having kids. So what is the point of this sidetrack of the story? Right? It literally has nothing to do with the rest of the story. Like, we don't know what it has to do with Joseph. It breaks up the narrative. What exactly is going on here? The answer is that Judah, after creating a whole narrative about Joseph, just so he did not have to take responsibility, and Reuben didn't have to take responsibility, and no one would have to take responsibility, Judah changes. Something happens to Judah. And suddenly, he starts taking responsibility for things that are happening. Right? Suddenly, he's presented like an amazing opportunity to completely abdicate responsibility. You got a woman here, she's 3 months pregnant, he impregnated her. She does not actually name him as the father. And he could just say, "Okay, take her out and be done with her." And instead, he says, "Nope, that's my kid. I've sinned here. It's my fault." And the kid is legitimate, obviously. And this ends up being the seed of the Davidic line. Right? The Davidic line doesn't end up getting started in a very honorable fashion. It gets started by the daughter-in-law of a man who's supposed to marry her, acting like a prostitute, literally on the side of a road, in order to get pregnant by him. Right? That is not the way that you would, if you were going to write the history of your nation, this is typically not the way you start writing the history of the most prestigious dynasty in your nation, is with this. And Judaism is filled with this sort of stuff, which is one of the reasons I love it, is because Judaism and Old Testament religion is filled with these very shaded and contradictory and human stories of people. It is not about whitewashing the past. It's about acknowledging the sins of the past and recognizing that out of those sins very often comes something good. But the thing about Judah that is unique here is, again, the fact that he accepts responsibility for the bad things that he has done. And this becomes the common pattern with Judah, to the point that when later in the story, he faces Joseph, right? He comes down to Egypt. Now Joseph is the second in command to Pharaoh. And Judah comes down. And Joseph is attempting to see if his brothers have learned anything from what they did to him a long time ago. And he says, "I want you to bring your youngest brother, Benjamin," who is Joseph's full brother, right? All these others are his half-brothers. And he says, "I want you to bring Benjamin here. I want to imprison Benjamin." And Judah instead says, take me instead. Now, he says the same thing to Jacob. Right, to get Jacob to let them send Benjamin, he says, you know what, I'll put my life on the line. Right, Reuben says, I'll take my sons, and you can take my sons instead. And he says that to Jacob. Something happens to Benjamin, then you can do something to my son. But Judah's like, you know what, no, you can do something to me. He says, I will take the full responsibility. He says, send the lad with me, we'll get up and go, we'll live and not die, both you and also our young children. I will guarantee him. From my hand you can demand him. If I do not bring him to you and stand him up before you, I will have sinned against you forever. And this becomes the common theme for Judah. Judah is always the guy who takes responsibility. So, what do we learn about this from leadership? The one quality we know above all about Judah is that Judah takes the hit. Judah takes the blame. Judah is willing to accept the responsibility. Because accepting the credit is easy. That's the easy part. Accepting the responsibility is the tough part. And that's something to remember when we select our leader. So here's the bottom line. When you live in a democracy and you select your leaders, it's up to you to determine what qualities you're looking for. One of the top qualities you should be looking for, as Harry Truman once said, is the buck stops.
Hey, V. Regina Jones here. If you're looking for work in Watson, give me a call.
How'd you find me? How'd you even know my name?
I know where to gather my intel. Could even call me a collector. Later, V.
Alright, now, if you want to hear a different take on Texas lawsuit, this show, head on over.
Got another dry, sun-filled week coming your way, Night City. Soak in that sun while you can. There's a cold front moving in.
Pas mal,
Prepare for killer conditions as we head into the weekend.
I can't make it!
The Ben Shapiro Show is produced by Colton Haas. Executive producers
Could always be worse.
Our supervising producers are Mathis Glover and Robert Sterling. Production manager.
Hey, what's up?
Our associate producers are Rebecca Doyle and Savannah.
You have nothing better
The show
to
is
do?
edited by Adam Simons. Audio is mixed by Mike Coromino.
Life's
Hair
good,
animation is by Fabiola Castillo. Production assistant Jessica Grant. The Ben Shapiro Show is a Daily Wire production. Copyright 2020.
The Matt Walsh Show.
Don't forget, you're worth.
Hi.
Or Biden presidency. No, I mean, the Supreme Court, think about it, for a long time, despite the Constitution,
We got a call! We're here
so
to help!
we know you're in there! The Constitution, it started annexing rights, the numbers.
Got another dry, sun-filled week coming your way, Night City.
Don't like that one bit.
Sun while you can.
But you know, the solution is also should be all the centralized control. You know what the answer is, right? We all just
Wow, tellement ils vont sortir
Now
un...
move along, nice and easy.
Well, there's and I think there's I could be wrong with internet over here. There's a way to
When danger lurks,
like text or geolocation, like there's all kinds of yeah. So we can create it now.
What's up?
We gotta go to super chats.
Hey, how's it going?
Super chats. Ask a bunch of questions. I don't know what super chat is, but user comments. Okay, question. All right. I'm not gonna read this one. Okay, I'm gonna read it. Maybe, I don't know. I've got thick skin.
Hey.
No. Just
do I know you?
9 Unbuffed said, just to say when. Gwyneth Kovac says, Tim, thanks Tim for your show. My little kids love having your show on as they fall asleep. So you must be doing something right. Keep it milk toast. That's interesting. I used to make services. I used to listen to I love that show. Yeah, teenager with like NFL all the time. Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean I watched that too, but like you turn the radio on and you hear it.
What's your rush?
Joel Jamal says, just wrote it on my channel. Here in Australia, we had a vaccine developed back in April.
Oh, watch it. You'll swallow a fly.
It received a 7 out of 7 international peer-reviewed rating. They developed it so quickly because they just continued their work on the SARS SARS virus. Oh, interesting. So, did you hear about...
Pourquoi tous ces insultes, putain? Pourquoi?
So this is an important PSA.
Si tu lui donnes une mission, ça va être gay, hein, écoute. Hein. Bah voilà.
The UK has said,
prepare for cooler conditions as we head into the weekend.
NHS is telling people, if you have a severe allergic reaction, you should not be getting this vaccine because several people have developed, I believe it's 0.68.
Ils vont appeler les coffres, les bâtards.
When danger lurks,
Tu dis ça alors que même tu dis ça aussi, salope? Ouais, c'est...
this is like if you're gonna.
Ah si, moi je te dis, ils ont appelé les keufs.
And if you have allergies, the UK. We're not UK citizens, so take your advice from your doctor in the US. But this is, and that's 68 people out of 1,000 are having severe anaphylactic shock. Yeah, and I think they said.
Qu'est-ce qu'ils vont lui?
1 in 200 chance of
I'm fine. We got another dry, sun-filled week coming your way, Night City. But soak in that sun while you can. There's a cold front moving in. Prepare for cooler conditions as we head into the weekend.
Because the way anaphylactic
Konnichiwa.
works is the second exposure to a trigger. Well, so it could be like, there's gotta be something in
Un problème quand je mange. Hein.
experience before to get the anaphylactic shock. Maybe they had COVID. It could be a preservative that's in cereals. Maybe they had COVID previously.
Toi tu es en mode kiff sur les bits toi. Écoute, il parle à chaque fois de bits, qu'est-ce que tu veux que je lui dise?
Fuck off, you idiot.
Got another dry, sun-filled week coming your way, Night City.
You lost, honey?
Soak in that sun while you can. There's a cold front moving in.
Quel fils?
Prepare for cooler conditions as we head into the weekend.
J'ai défoncé des darons, du coup je sais pas lesquels. Tu m'expliques comment on a un gosse avec un gars, salope? C'est con ce que tu viens de dire là.
Know your place. Hey there. Can I help you with anything?
I mean, it's not a hard thing to do. I wouldn't even necessarily.
Can't you see I'm busy?
Who are you?
Comment tu fais sur Deadbeat ça?
Not only that, but
Yes.
Ah bah j'arrive sur Deadbeat. Voilà ce qui va se passer. Parce que c'est sur Deadbeat salope. Ah, j'ai pas besoin d'aide, t'inquiète pas mec. Hein. J'ai comment il s'appelle encore comment il s'appelle? J'ai merde, j'ai oublié son nom.
Hey, do I know you?
This is one of the problems I think we have with the vote system. They say like injury in fact what that means that variety continue until someone reaches the end of the So a better example would be that
Comment il a coup d'appartement?
when I've had news outlets or activists outright lie and make it up, every week you can't do anything about it because the lawyers will ask me, what's your damages? And it's like, okay, well, this has caused a threat to my advertisers, and how many advertisers were lost? I'm like,
oh là là!
About this, they'll just keep doing it. Exactly. It's like the opposite of the theory, the Giuliani version, not the economics version. If you tolerate a neighborhood with broken windows, you tolerate jaywalkers.
Well, good morning to you.
Encourage greater and greater crimes. So if you crack down on the smaller crimes, it will be. So the same way, if you crack down really hard on people casting illegal ballots, it will counter the more substantial or prevent it from growing. Here's the most important question. Corey Williams says, "What happened to her hand? Trump 2020 used the money well." So I'm skating today, and I was hanging out, and I had just done a 5-0 pledge and 5-0. So I was on a free leg, it's very basic. And Adam was like, "Yeah," and like typing, and I was like, "Oh, dude, that's like a crazy joke." He was like, "Take the compliment."
Décor pas mal, décor pas mal, ça. Décor pas mal.
And it is something I didn't do the first try, but here I was all there again. You think that was cool? Why would you do this? And then I went flipped over, slammed on my hand, and I thought
Ça le muscule genre du futur.
moral of the story is, this is something every skateboarder is supposed to know. You don't screw around, and you respect the trick you're on. You always get hurt whenever you're like,
What's your problem?
like, I'm gonna do this. There you go. But hey, I know. Well, it was more like
Hey, yo, V. How about a round or two? What do you say?
So we have
How you like my new punching bag? Just gave me a next-gen ass whooping. He did. Curious to see how he handles the likes of V. So how about it?
Slides across the metal, and so we're making a bar, and the front of the bar is going to be running.
Where'd you get him, Fred?
Off the street.
Yeah, so we're actually
Saw him looking up at me with these big, sad eyes. So I took the poor pup in. Fed him, clothed him.
All right, let's see. We just gotta just stand there talking for now.
Nah, for real. He's a military bot. He's got a sweet deal. And a tumor mine costing a few upgrades. Now, here we are.
I thought I could try to get people in touch. The world would be a better place.
How's it going? Fight's about to start. Not gonna watch, take notes.
Malone versus Hernandez. Nah, our chrome friend here don't watch TV. Don't talk neither. Only way he communicates is with them fists.
I mean, you have me on. You're taking principles stand.
Let's do this.
Light on your feet. Get that head moving.
Don't hesitate to pick up the enemy's ammunition off the ground. It's figuratively.
Yeah, figuratively. You know, there's an old story of I can't remember his name.
You got one hell of a punch there, Jim. Thought of monetizing it?
What? Déjà mort?
What do you say?
That way, their bows, thinner string, could fire back against arrows at a large punch. But the enemy could fire back their arrows with that small punch. It's clever. Yeah, this is good metaphor. Don't let your enemy use your ammo against you and be prepared to counter with their arrows. Alright, let's see. Waffles Sentai says, Tim, you can still talk about everything you want on
You got for sale.
Just have
Only
to say
top shelf gear.
with really heavy sarcasm. And then you will the algorithm will people watch it. Well, that's the joke we were talking about earlier. Like if I said something joke because of the podcast. If I went, of course that's why Joe Biden won. Just very okay for those that are listening. I just did a really heavy and obvious wink at the camera.
I think they could hear it. It was so heavy.
Yeah. So it's like if you just if you were like, I absolutely think Joe Biden legitimately won. He's the greatest president of all time.
They'll build facial recognition to tell, but I wonder if in the future when the AI comes and tries and fights us, if sarcasm.
Well, I think
You mentioned something about fighting.
And then as soon as you cross the line, the gigantic.
I've seen you landing blows in the ring. You've got sharp instinct, good edge. It doesn't go far, especially when you get chipped. These fights,
No, I think
let's just say they aren't elite, but very lucrative.
Yeah, lucrative for who? You or me?
Both of us. I get a small percentage of the total winnings, you know, as your agent. You get the rest.
I think you're not gonna get that. I think that's it. Are you gonna get that? I was.
Oh, I get it. You want to get rich off my blood, sweat, and tears.
Hey, you gotta make a buck somehow, right? At least I'm giving it to you straight. Fights happen in different parts of the city. Choose where you want to go. Put down your addies and start swinging. When you take home the pot, manage to drop every last one of them, you get a chance to fight the grand finale. That all clear?
Crystal.
Good. Oh, except you won't be setting foot outside or what? Not yet. Start. I believe in you, V. Time to show this city what you're made of.
Putain, il a appelé vie comme le mec de Devil May Cry. Ils sont sérieux là? Pas de respect là. C'est ça? Ils l'ont appelé vie comme le mec de Devil May Cry, man. Bon, on va aller sur Deadbeat, salope, hein. Écoute. Bien sûr. Bien sûr. Il faut qu'il paye Capcom pour pouvoir faire ça.
About those fights you mentioned.
V. If you don't have a titanium skull lining, you're gonna have memory problems in no time. Fights happen in different parts of the city. You choose where you want to go, put down your eddies, and start swinging. When you take home the belt, manage to drop every last one of them, you get a chance to fight in the grand finale. That all clear?
Crystal.
Good. Oh, except you won't be setting foot outside or once. Not yet. You can start. I believe in you, V. I'm trying to show this city what you're made of.
Yeah, I was unfamiliar. A bit of a good jest. One day he went to his neighbor, he was a journalist.
You go in the ring yourself?
Not anymore. Skull's taking too much of a beating. Reflexes ain't what they used to be.
There's ways of fixing that. Korenzikov should do the trick.
Rather dish out my eddies for something else. It's time I started taking it back.
But that was usually the CIA could end with the press. I mean, a lot of people.
Salle de muscle.
AI car.
Courage jumps à sortir.
Naomi Mathias says when Tim was running for Los Angeles, I could be wrong. I could be absolutely wrong about all the Civil War stuff. The only thing I can say is, for all I know right now, the lawsuit gets concluded.
Je l'ai supprimé, moi, mec. Hein.
Oh well, that's okay. Sure.
J'ai supprimé, mec.
Or maybe we just been seeing constant escalation the entire time, and now we have a bunch of
What do you want, friend?
One super chat, they just said, like countries have done some more for way less than we've seen.
Let's have a look.
I have to imagine it's not going to be like right now. What happens is the Supreme Court, I imagine they're not going to take it. I really do. Because I've read a lot from people on the left and the right why the Supreme Court would not want to take this. And they might not. I don't think anything would happen right away. But what happens in, next year when, Joe Biden says he's going to order a 100-day like mask mandate nationwide or whatever. People are going to say no. They're absolutely going to say no. And then that's a really dangerous precedent because it precipitates a loss of confidence in government. And government is nothing but the confidence of the people. The commander says Trump should split with the reps and make a Trump party. From there, he should take over the Alliance Party, which is centrist, made of 15 smaller populist centrist parties, and appeal to central Democrats and libs. Tim should like Alliance. Oh, check it out. All right, let's see. Rita Ho says, CCP has moved forward with their agenda and start to pave the path for Kamala to take over by investigating Hunter Biden. Well, what people are saying now about the stories coming out, that Hunter Biden is compromised and Joe, is that it's not an accident. They need a reason to remove Joe Biden and make Kamala Harris the president now. So now they're going to be like, oh no, Joe's and whatever. But I think that's a bit too conspiratorial. I think what really happened is nobody wanted to do the story like you were saying because they didn't want to be the journalist who hurt Joe Biden. And now that the election's over, they don't care and they're going to cover the story because it gets some clicks.
Genre, j'ai pas assez. Oui, oui.
So based says,
genre, j'ai pas assez d'argent. Comment ça, j'ai pas assez? Comment ça, j'ai pas assez, salope? Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire?
Government censoring through private business. Yup, absolutely. Marcus Pinson says, earlier this week, Ian said he wanted to be able to make his own ammo from scratch. I've been working on something for a few years that I think is right up his alley. I messaged him on Instagram, tell him to hit me up. I promise it's really cool.
I got a lot of response about that. One person said, hey, you said you wanted to make ammo. I got some advice for you. Don't bother. It's almost impossible to find primer. Someone else suggested that if we can get the primer, they'll make it for us. It seems like a huge and really complex
Only 4 factories make primer in the United States. They're all fulfilling government contracts.
And you need, like, the explosive license to manufacture powder.
It's extremely difficult. You need a huge investment, and there's a big process, and you barely get a return on your investment.
All things said, I haven't responded to anyone about it.
Non, je peux pas les tirer.
See, brokages,
Let's have a look.
brokages over hokages. I said brokages until I saw the last word and then I understood the reference. Says, Tim, you always talk about the Spanish Civil War when the scenario would be more closer to the Russian Civil War, where the Bolsheviks owned the cities and the whites were more in the rural areas and past the Urals. Perhaps. It's because I watched a documentary on the Spanish Civil War 2 years ago, and at the time there was like parallels and people were talking about it quite a bit. But since then I've only, I've not watched. But I'll read up and watch something about the Russian Civil War as well.
A lot of people are comparing it to the Chinese Cultural Revolution, to what's happening now as well.
Yes. Yeah. More than the Russians were at World War I, which we're not in right now, and they had a monarchy which we don't have. But the Chinese were like the Cultural Revolution. Yeah, look at that.
Maybe closer to Cambodia, Khmer Rouge.
It's true.
Pol Pot.
Yikes. Yeah. Let's see. MD Adrian says, unspoken problem in the U.S. is that we are not really a people at this time. They have broken us until we have no common language, history, ethnic background, culture, and now no rule of law. What is left to hold us together?
Comment ça passe? Ah ouais, d'accord.
New Republic published an article saying it's time to abolish the Constitution.
You know, another country found itself, or barely a country found itself in this position historically. Are you familiar with the history of Singapore?
No.
Well, basically Singapore was ethnically divided, linguistically, religiously divided. It was the crime was so bad there that Malaysia actually kicked it out of the country. It said, you are no longer part of us, because it's this island on the south of their island chain. It completely got rid of them. And what pulled it back together was they had a revolutionary leader, Lee Kuan Yew, who imposed strict nationalism. He imposed a national language, which happened to be English, which didn't make anybody happy because it wasn't their native tongue. He imposed strict rules, anti-corruption, etc., and that was the kind of leadership that built that national unity back up. And when a country gets so far gone,
Thanks a lot.
Eventually get.
All right, let's see what you got.
Perhaps Napoleon.
What I like to hear.
Or, any of the other examples of somebody who just sort of has to come back in and restore things as a national unity leader.
I think with a Trump presidency and a Trump continuation, you get people building a community, a communal identity around the Constitution, around America. But if we carry on with the path that was, everything before Trump, you get, people are dejected, disconnected. There's constant fighting over, identity-based issues. And the interest of the elites is just to enrich themselves as the ship crashes, because why bother if the ship's going down?
Oh, laisse tomber.
Referencing Buchanan as one of the worst U.S. presidents ever, and it was the lead up to the Civil War, I think, James Buchanan. And that Biden is kind of reminiscent of a Buchanan, that he's going to be a nobody, know-nothing president. 4 years of that's going to drive people just to chaos.
And what people need to realize, too, as I bring this up a lot, is history is condensed when we read it. So it may be that we get a 4 years of Buchanan like Biden, and then it results in a return of Trump in 2024, and then sometimes, or maybe Trump comes back and fixes it, I don't know. But when people read about the Civil War or any history, they read the highlights back to back to back. Forget. Especially if you read Wikipedia, it's like this happened. You've got to realize.
We got a problem?
Months and years. And I think it's one reason why people don't understand maybe what's happening right now. Because they expect one day to turn the TV on and have a news anchor go, like, Candace repeat herself, hey, America is in the Civil War. And that's like, that's how we know.
Coming your way, Night City. But
yes.
What's up? There's a cold front moving in. Prepare for clear conditions as we head into the weekend.
Shot at Fort Sumter before it actually kicked off, and then other states to see. So there was actually a time period where like, wow, states are seeing what's crazy. And then nothing happened. But then there was war, obviously. Rob Abram says, tuned in late, so I missed everything. Hope your wrist is okay, Robbie. You, among others, are the reason I'm moving towards our main podcast on the YouTube channel. You guys rock. Your friends because you're like his one. Sleepy Dad says, just that in 2016, talking Trump.
Don't forget, you're worth it.
Yeah, let's see. Yevgeny says, why not move out of the U.S. to Eastern Europe or other places where currently complaints? I was actually looking at Ukraine for a while. Yeah. Because, you go ahead a second.
That's one thing that's very Ukraine, though, cost of living is very affordable, and you have a lot more freedom there to do a lot of things.
If you were a middle-class American,
hello, I'm Jillian Jordan. Welcome to the World Report on N54 News.
C'est trop bizarre, putain.
The Aratana Festival of the Neapolis to mark the
event, the streets of Night City will come alive and explore multi-story Dashi
cost of living,
The festival program will also
life overall is better than a lot of
virtuosos and theatrical
and well, you know, when I went there and I covered the
Sponsor for the festival is the Arasaka Corporation. And in an exciting development, even Hanako Arasaka has participation in the Dashi Parade. From all of us at WNS News, we wish you a safe and fun Matsuri. Enjoy yourselves, Night City. After the break, cyber psychosis, myth or reality. Stay tuned.
Conviction to fight against the establishment that betrays us in broad daylight. Any advice on entry-level options? You know, these days I really don't know. Because I used to just go out and cover stuff, but now it's like it used to be so easy to keep track of COVID lockdowns. So, good luck.
What's up, Joe? You want some?
They sell places, programs, a little bit of a subsidy to make it worthwhile, but you could different locations. So I'd say that leadership institute.
Also, we were very lucky because we started before the crackdown. Now, imagine starting brand
Wesh, il a une arme lui, c'est un taré, ouais.
that prevent you from reaching a wider audience. So, 10 years ago, it was still sort of easy. Like, you had a good message, you knew a little bit of how to make videos, you were golden, you were great. Now, you say something wrong about the election, you're done, and you're no longer here.
Shane says, I'm a union worker and my dad is a union representative. I tried to explain to my dad how Biden is going to hurt us, but he passes me as crazy because he bases his ideology off of mainstream media and what our union overarching authorities say.
Ah, il y a du boulot, ok.
Yeah, that's tough. You could say, it depends on the union he's in, but Joe Biden is in favor of free trade agreements, which will likely result in the dad losing his job. So
What?
It's very hard to convince family members.
Oh non, ne me bug que j'ai mon premier bug là. Oh.
Force information down his or her throat. It's always important to share information that's important, but come at it from a perspective like, hey, I saw this, I don't know what you think of it. Since you're so much older and wiser, what do you think of this? And that worked specifically well on my family as well when it came to a lot of important issues.
Oh putain, ça m'a débugé, ouais. Ouais, bon. Théo, t'avais pas tort. J'ai eu un bug de fou là, où je pouvais plus bouger, j'ai dû sauter. Ah, par contre, je crois que je vais vraiment faire pause et attendre la Play 5. Hein. Wesh! Ah, d'accord. Indication, enfin. Petit boulot de ceci, puis voilà, c'est. Okay.
But it's a way you convince someone to move their opinion. Well, first of all, I'll just go through this whole thing. You can't make someone go, say, loving a person to hate a person. You can only push people within their reasonable boundaries. So, if someone
my,
says,
oh my, look at him, so
you can't make them
handsome.
say, I hate this person. But you can't make them say, yeah, that is kind of annoying. He does this. You did it enough times, eventually the person will learn. Is someone, man, it never stops. Get at that point. So when we go extreme terms, the first thing you can do is so that they feel, oh, this will be real. But before, not as a trusting person, the extreme is you then present something that you like about Joe Biden, and you know your dad can't believe it. The turn is that you acknowledge your dad is right. So that most of the extreme is so like example, Joe Biden was
Man of the hour. Jeez, took you long enough. Worked up an appetite, just waiting.
Ah, j'étais en train de me balader, voilà ce qui se
Sit
passe.
down, let me finish this. Then we can drop in on Senor Vector.
How's it going?
De quoi?
Didn't figure you was the type for Asian. Would have thought you'd find it too exotic.
What do you mean?
Ouais.
What's there not to like? Noodles? Check. Synth sirloin? Check. Get some more chile action over here. You're looking at
Ouais,
Mama
pas vraiment
Will's
beaucoup,
signature
mais ça aurait été dû être le contraire pour l'aventure.
Mentioned something about a surprise yesterday.
Mm.
Am I remembering right, or just had a brain fart?
Probably both, because you usually forget shit. But it Just so happens.
Peut-être la qualité du jeu, je sais pas.
This a sweet ass J.O.B.
Go on.
I mean, maybe it's not as big as that, but just that he's fronted by a little-known someone named Dexter Deshawn.
Ouais.
Only the top fixer in Night fucking City. Badass black Jesus of the afterlife. 300 pounds of partly gold-plated coupe.
Dexter Deshawn. What's the latest spec on him? I know you got info to spill.
He's been off the grid for about 2 years. Word on the street was took a little vacay.
2 years?
Ouais, mais je pense qu'il voulait pas faire un truc à la GTR.
What is he up to?
Guessing he shoved pizzas in his mouth while jerking off to hardcore virtues. Important thing is he's back. Fresh group.
How'd you manage to pull this? Trading your spleen or something? As far as I know, we're not the type to get fingered by Dex.
You, me? Oh, but T-Bug, she's the one that hooked us up. Got us talking. Knew it was a done deal the moment he laid eyes on me. Just come on. Ain't nobody who can resist this. All right?
Sure, Jack. Whatever you say. So what's the gig? We meant to come out in one piece?
Our Lord and Savior wants to tell you everything himself, face to face. Oh, no pressure, but this whole deal is riding on you, I see.
Why do I gotta go? You and T-Bug draw straws without me?
T-Bug and Dex go way back, and my face is yesterday's news. Now Dex says he needs to check you, talk to you. Look, V, it's his job, his rules. I can't blame him for taking a personal approach. And it ain't as bad as you think, okay? Trust me.
Guess I got no choice then.
Dex is a real deal when it comes to fixers. Don't get me wrong. Don't got nothing against the Padre or Wakako, but Dex is his own.
Thank you so much.
Don't get me started on fixers. They catch a client, find the cheapest gong to do the job, then drop their corpse at a landfill.
Shit. Hit the nail on the head, B. Gracias a Dios. Bueno. Brought your wheels. Gave them to my guy yesterday to smooth over the dents after our dust-up scabs.
Thanks, Jack. Much appreciated.
Top-notch work Miguel did. Rides like it looks. Factory new.
We'll see about that.
So we rolling or what?
Let's feel this factory new ride.
Genre, ils s'arrêtent direct dès qu'ils m'ont vu. Ouais, c'est quoi ce trans, motherfucker?
First stop. Ripper Duck and Holmes. Easy on the gas, huh? I just ate. I was supposed to stop by Vic's anyhow. I got a date. Me and Miss D.
You don't say.
She's so sweet. Really gets me, you know?
Welcome to another Reddit relationships video.
Yeah, this is it. Come on, V. Find me once Vic's done dusting.
My ex-girlfriend.
We'll hash out what Dex has cooked up for us.
2 months ago, and that's me back. I need advice. High 17 million. My ex-girlfriend.
Not only to you. Do you truly believe
that those who have sold you your mechanical eyes have resisted the temptation to peek through them? Cameras are all around us, even within us. Your joys, your worries, your life. For them it is all mere spectacle. Do you truly believe that those who have sold you your mechanical eyes have resisted the temptation to peek through them? Cameras are all around us, even within us. Your joys, your worries, your life. For them it is all mere spectacle.
Wow.
Welcome to NTD News. I'm Kevin Hogan. Here are today's top stories. A barrage of briefs coming in.
Let's just say you're right. So what? Should I just gouge out my optics? Thanks, but no thanks.
You are beyond salvation, but not the children of the future. Life untainted by surgery of the sacrilege. We can yet save them. May the mothers shield their bodies. May the fathers instill their hatred for Crow. But who are those who follow our every step, you ask? Why, the titans of entertainment in Alpha Centauri! In their wretchedness, they placate their weary and oppressed masses by putting our laughter, our tears, on full display!
Look at that show! Rick, get next to him. I'll snap a still of you arresting him for revealing government secrets.
Open your mind before it is too late!
Joining sides in the Texas lawsuit over election integrity. President Trump says the Supreme Court
will like die when she sees this. Like, this is Max Nova. I just can't.
106 House Republicans asked the Supreme Court to take up the election lawsuit that Texas filed at the start.
Radio waves bear the truth. Let those with ears listen and those with eyes behold. Their mothership conceals itself above our very heads. Ready yourself, for they are coming. Open your mind before it is too late.
The lawmakers join 18 states that are already back in Texas. They all have Republican Attorneys General. 20 states with Democratic Attorneys General filed in opposition to the Texas lawsuit Thursday, which was also written by defendants to respond. States also have Democratic Attorneys General. Iowa didn't join the lawsuit. Including Idaho, Alaska, Wyoming.
What the fuck?
Ready yourself, for they are coming.
Texas. 6 filed formal motions to intervene in the lawsuit on Texas's behalf. As did President Trump.
What up, little man?
Ohio, meanwhile, says it supports neither party. The court should resolve the fundamental.
Turn a blind eye to their existence. They have already won.
Am I invisible or what? Nah. Change jobs and skip town. For a while.
I have no reason to live.
Say hi. Chat about your good old days.
Michigan, Georgia, and Wisconsin. As he decided the president had tweeted, all we ask is courage and wisdom from those that
You can't rob me.
A lawyer for President Trump says the Supreme Court will let State House members, the president himself, more than 100 that signed out to the Senate. Republican Representative James Comer said that Hunter Biden tax law investigation is out of line. No matter who takes office in January.
Republican James Comer says Joe Biden must not obstruct the investigation of his son, Hunter Biden. Comer writes, there have been serious in the mainstream media's lack of reporting on the election and big tech censorship didn't erase these facts. He says the oversight committee has to make sure that Joe Biden isn't influenced by his family's own interests, that the investigation must go on unimpeded, and that Joe Biden must not replace the current U.S. attorney for the District of Delaware now that his son is under federal investigation. Any interference would be meddling in the Department of Justice's affairs. Earlier this week, Hunter Biden confirmed that his tax affairs are in the
Open your mind! Before it is too late! They have already won!
And now bankrupt AmeriCorps help. And they're asking questions about James Biden's role in it. Earlier this year, a political report detailed claims from a former AmeriCorps executive. He says
Dr. Vector will see you now.
I'll sit tight over here. Me and Misty got a little catching up to do.
And that they were never repaid.
You look pleased.
Because I am. Always. Makes for easier living. But we got a new job lined up. I'm a big hitter at the afterlife.
Oh. Is it going to be dangerous?
Says he's looking to replace
Don't you worry.
The state's top election official. That's amid a barrage of criticism from the GOP, President Donald Trump, and a bevy of state lawmakers. Republican House Speaker David Ralston says he wants to get a new constitutional amendment passed. It would take the power to select the Secretary of State from voters and give it to legislators. Constitutional amendments in Georgia require a 2/3 majority vote in each chamber to make it on the ballot. Republicans hold a 35 to 21 majority in the state Senate and a 105 to 75 majority in the state House. Some Democratic support would be required in each chamber. Vice President Mike Pence rallies Georgia ahead of the Senate runoffs. He says election security will be high and voters should have confidence in their vote.
Vice President Mike Pence in Augusta, Georgia, assures supporters the votes in the Senate runoff will be safe and have never been more important. You know, I'm here on the president's behalf because we need Georgia to send these two great senators back to Washington, D.C. Returning the comments to Washington would secure a GOP Senate. Pence says this is crucial in protecting the successes of President Trump's first term. And we need to send them back because a Republican majority could be the last line of defense to preserve all we've done to defend this nation, revive our economy, and preserve the God-given liberties we hold dear. Georgia is firmly in the national spotlight. The runoffs became necessary when no candidate received a majority of the votes in November. Republican Senator David Perdue is running for re-election against Democrat John Ossoff, and Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler faces Democrat Raphael Warnock in a special election. The Senate currently stands at 50 to 48 with a Republican majority. One GOP victory would mean they hold on to a Senate majority, whereas Democrats need to win both races to force a 50-50 Senate.
Vicky, surprise every old ripper. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. Oh, wow. What do I owe the pleasure today?
Last gig. Had to jack into a client's neuro socket. I think I might have gotten spiked.
Experiencing migraines, nausea, hypersensitivity to bright lights.
Whole kit and caboodle.
All right, kid. We'll sort you out in a flash. Besides that, how are things?
The general election didn't pick a president. That's even though they voted in other races on the ballot. Georgia voting
Met a new fixer. He gave me a job. Name's Dexter DeShawn.
Known quantity from the afterlife. No denying you're moving up.
But something you're not telling me, Vic?
Keep your guard up, that's all. I've heard some things about Dex. He's not as chill as he makes himself out to be.
Sterling says there are around 130 investigations.
Need some new kit, but tools, not toys, Vic. Time I bumped up my sights and got a grip.
He also said about 100
Really? Now? Finally?
Vic, shit's getting real. Got a job from Dex DeShawn, hitting the major leagues. Need tech that can perform.
The Dexter DeShawn? Well, that is something. But let me guess. As
demonstrates how system operators can change votes using the Dominion voting system software. I want to go.
Quit crying, Vic. I'll bring you the Eddies later, with interest. You know I will.
I think I want to vote.
Last time. You hear?
There wasn't nothing there. I think we need to vote. And I'm going to complete.
Chair, please. Sit down and relax.
A local news site, Douglas, now first posted the videos on YouTube. In them, Coffee County Supervisor Misty Martin shows herself working with the ballots in a local election office. I think I want to vote for 5. Let's say 5.
Kuroshi Optics.
best I've got, and should be about right under the circumstances. Now jack in.
An election supervisor's job is to supervise the ballot adjudication process. Poll workers need to
Kuroshi?
ballots
Whoa,
if there is an
Vic,
overvote
nothing tops
problem.
that on the market.
You have to decide the intent of
Sounds
the
like it
voters
could
before
come in
Democrats
handy then.
and one Republican
I gave you my word I'd pay you
Well,
back,
here's
but
another
this might be too rich for my blood.
We'll work something out. Right now, I'm just out to make sure you get back in one piece. Eddie's in hand. You peruse and choose while I scan. See what's going on inside.
Coffee County officials refused to certify its election results, citing issues with the Dominion software. It is the only county in
Okay. Maybe a salope.
He told us it was almost impossible to challenge the
Ouais, je vais te saloper la gueule, t'as raison.
Penny Joe has more.
J'aime te saloper la gueule.
Testified before Michigan lawmakers and signed a sworn affidavit. The day after the election, Shornack was monitoring absentee ballots being counted at a TCF center, and what he saw there puzzled him.
For example, the ballot will come in, right?
Bah ouais, j'ai vu ces salopes, bah c'est bon. Ils arrêtent pas, putain, ils arrêtent pas, ils commencent à m'énerver ces putes.
Because there's a barcode on there, and then it'll pop up on a computer screen, and it'll say, for example, Chris Shornack, and here's his address in Detroit. What I witnessed is they would scan that ballot, and it wouldn't register.
He says that's because the name, address, or the ballot number does not match the information on the registered voter list. But he says the poll workers did not set aside these invalid ballots.
So you need to take that, set it aside, and figure it out, put it in the problem stack. They were using those and counting them anyways, and they would scan them and process them.
Before being a poll challenger in Detroit, Shornack served as a challenger in Michigan's Royal Oak County on Election Day. Out of the 25,000 ballots that were counted there, 10 ballots were spoiled and therefore cancelled. In Detroit, Shornack said he didn't see any ballots being disqualified.
Now, Detroit, having 174,000 ballots, they should only have 70 spoiled ballots. But they had so many it wasn't even countable. It's like, what explains that?
He claims that at each of the 4 counting boards he monitored, up to 80 ballots that didn't match the voter info were processed anyway. Shornack says he also wasn't able to raise the issue to poll workers there.
We weren't allowed to ask questions. If we did, we'd get harassed, yelled at, berated.
He said he only succeeded at making challenges twice, even though he saw many more irregularities.
And then the worst thing in the world that happened is the other poll challengers, if they were Democrats or from the ACLU or these other societies, they would actually say to me, you can't challenge that. And I'm like, look, it's not matching. It's a wrong ballot number. They can't find it in the computer system.
Shornack said by defying
Mark 1, like I said, decent enough scanner. Displays data on your cornea. Cherry on the top's a built-in external lens disruptor. In layman's terms, any surveillance cam will capture your face as a blur. Just remember, your body will still show up as crystal clear. This should do the trick. Talks to Kuroshi Tech, too.
I'm ready. Carve away.
Excellent. Let's do this.
What a sad state of America that, wow, you're great.
Lay that major league arm of yours right here.
Okay, but that's what people are saying.
So, what's new in the life of Victor Vector?
Or we're going to lose our whole life.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, not much. And that's fine with me. I used to live in a world where all that mattered was who's who, what's what, and how's why.
And what happened?
One day I just dropped it and never looked back. I'll never be a legend in this town. I've been sleeping nights ever since.
And Dominion voting systems
Just like that. Thanks.
before Michigan lawmakers.
Now, a bit of anesthetic.
Oh putain, je commence déjà à être fatigué là. Non, je crois que je vais m'allonger sa mère.
Feel anything?
Merde.
Some have accused the firm of having ties to foreign governments. Dominion CEO says he baseless and defamatory claims about his company, saying it harms not just Dominion, but also the state's election.
Lights out for a minute, all right?
Michigan Republicans found that in one county, 6,000 votes were flipped from Trump to Biden. It was later corrected.
Okay, let's test this. See the magic in action. Linking you in.
And NTV sat down with two Chinese-American poll observers.
You might feel a little discomfort at first. Blurred vision, low contrast, glitches. Well, how's it look? Feel all right to you?
Seen more dramatic improvements before.
Patience, kid. Give it a minute.
So that guy, as soon as he saw me took a picture of the box, he stood up and then keep on taking picture of me. Well, he's seen that I can take a picture of you, but you cannot take a picture of that box. I can't believe
Time for the scanner.
So mean. Okay.
Zhao says she was too far away to meaningfully observe the ballots.
The yellow line 6 feet away, and I stand right behind the chair, which is more than 7 feet away from the envelopes. And then plus the envelope will be, when I look at the envelope, all the writings are upside down. I cannot see anything. I cannot see the letters. The only thing I can see is the length of the letters.
She said at one point the Republican rep told her the Democrats were after her and that he better let her go or else they would try to remove her. Another observer, Wen-He Lu, recounts being unable to meaningfully observe ballots.
But in Milwaukee, the rule was 6 feet between the observers and the election officials who check the ballots. And that distance is too far for any observer to be functioning effectively.
Lu also brought up absentee ballots.
Absentee ballot itself is not a right, but it is a privilege. You need to apply for it. Therefore, without the application form, the absentee ballot should not be valid. And therefore, from my point of view, if I do not see an application form,
It might take you a few seconds to adjust. But first time's rarely the charm, with anything, really. Scanner should eventually sync with your thought processes and read your intentions. I also inject an NCPD file search. Run into any ne'er-do-wells? You know exactly what they ne'er did well.
The Epoch Times, 3 lawsuits are unfolding in Wisconsin.
It ought to work like a charm.
Special forces officer
Now
says
draw
the
your
tactics
weapon.
he sees
You should
used
see
in
your
the
ammo
election
count
by
in a
the
brand new
anti-Trump
sight.
opposition are part of a classic strategy. He explained it's used for overthrowing governments as written in U.S. military manuals. The officer chose to remain anonymous. He says what's happening is referred to as
How about the neurovirus from the last job? Can you check it?
Done and gone while we were putting in your implant. And a full sweep on your soft and circuits. Zap the critter. You're certified bug-free.
Shit, Victor, not bad. I don't know what to say.
Say you'll take this and remember the dosage. 2 whiffs now, and another 2 in an hour.
UBS Bank has been brought to court several times.
What am I looking at?
Tax fraud in Europe.
A mild stim. Should boost neurotransmission in the short term and muffle some of the side effects while the implant takes.
Our France correspondent David Vivez met with a whistleblower who worked within the bank's network.
Thanks again, Vic. You're the best. I owe you.
Go on, kid. Show them what you're made of. And once you hit the big leagues, forget where you came from.
Last year, when France convicted UBS for organizing tax fraud for its clients, France fined the company a historic $4.5 billion.
UBS had links with political leaders, and namely the Minister of Budget.
In 2014, the ball asked to be heard by the American justice system in the trial of Mr. Raoul Weil. Weil was number 3 at UBS in Switzerland and a managing director of UBS Wealth Management. He was suspected to have organized a tax evasion of more than 20,000 American citizens for $20 billion in 2008. To Jabal, organizing tax fraud is the same in the US or Europe. The key word is networking.
Shut up, you idiot.
The most important thing in wealth management.
Come on,
Who's winning?
Trust the bank, then your
Hernandez.
family will
You know, in the old days, that cripple Malone would have been flat on the boards. Now, every last fighter's got extra skull line. Absorbs 75% of every blow.
Another famous name and UBS ally that may surprise you is Clinton. Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State in 2009. She helped UBS settle their tax fraud case with the IRS that year.
Got cash riding on this?
Nah, just looking. It's out of habit more than anything else.
UBS provided less than 5,000 names. In 2015,
Miss it, don't you?
Journal and the New York Post revealed deeper links between the Clinton Foundation and UBS. The Wall Street Journal said that donations made by UBS to the Clinton Foundation significantly increased after Hillary Clinton helped settle the tax evasion lawsuit. UBS Wealth Management also paid Bill Clinton for appearances. The amount totaled over $1.5 million. The bank is Bill Clinton's largest corporate source of speech income since he left the White House. According to Jabal, there's a small world unto itself among UBS Bank and its wealthiest clients, including Chinese officials and top politicians.
How's biz going?
You know you have a Swiss bank.
Can't complain. Corporals learn to keep their distance, and Sokka's back hiring lone mercs. They all gotta have the newest, shiniest implants.
Good thing you got Misty here to help. Handles your griping well.
Yeah, renting out her shop's the best decision I ever made.
You know what? Seems like you're the only person in Night City who's happy with this lot.
You get to a certain age, you drop all your illusions. Life just gets easier from there.
Restrictions on asylum eligibility. The over 400-page rule marks the latest White House effort to curb both legal and illegal immigration. The rule would limit the ways people can qualify for protection and would likely result in fewer people being granted asylum. The rule says asylum seekers must prove they'll suffer a severe level of harm if they return to their home country. Those who claim they'll face persecution based on gender or gang violence generally wouldn't qualify. Immigration officials must also consider whether migrants
Bah, vas-y, qu'est-ce que tu parles encore, putain?
fraudulent documents, failed to pay their taxes, or passed through other countries without seeking protective measures, protective status there first. A wind farm in Texas is under the spotlight.
Déjà, vous n'avez pas le droit de parler à ce que vous bouffez, ok?
To the Chinese Communist regime. The property is near the Air Force's largest pilot training base.
En plus, j'ose dire que moi je m'en trouve.
The power to block such investments for national security reasons, but chose not to. Investment firm founder Kyle Bass is deep concerned after visiting the area. He tweeted that the landowner can bring people and cargo in and out of Mexico with little oversight. Texas Senator John Cornyn tweeted that the government is monitoring the situation. Still to come, Pennsylvania's governor announces more virus-related restrictions that will last until the end of the year. And President Trump's childhood home is going up for sale. The Tudor-style house owner is estimating $3 million. More on that after the break.
We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90%.
Welcome back. A 23-member vaccine advisory panel votes to support the emergency use of Pfizer BioNTech CCP virus vaccine. The vote could lead to mass distribution.
Ricochet, motherfucker, ricochet d'armes. Oh, yeah.
Quickly, it would trigger a mass distribution effort. The panel voted after an all-day public hearing. They asked if the benefits of the vaccine outweigh its risks in individuals 16 years of age and older. 18-4 voted in favor, with one abstention. The doctor who voted to abstain says he agrees the vaccine is safe, but doesn't see the data supporting usage by 16 and 17-year-olds. The government pledged to distribute 2.9 million doses of the vaccine within 24 hours of FDA approval. Since contracting the CCP virus, Pennsylvania's Governor Tom Wolf is announcing more restrictions in the state.
Tu peux monter partout, wesh, mon frère.
He believes the situation is bad and warrants further restrictions. The order will begin this Saturday and will last until January 4th. All extracurricular activities like after-school sports are suspended. Indoor dining will not be allowed, but outdoor dining and takeout is still permitted. Businesses with indoor facilities like gyms, theaters, and museums must close, but retailers can operate at half capacity, and all indoor gatherings must be capped at 10 people, while outdoor gatherings are limited to 50 people. President Trump's childhood home is up for sale. The price is $3 million that the auctioneer hopes one of Trump's admirers will pay.
This is Donald Trump's childhood home. The Tudor-style house in suburban New York is up for sale. The target price tag, $3 million. The auctioneer hopes an admirer will be able to pay that price and then give it back to Trump.
We're raising money to purchase the property and then donate it to Trump for a charity of his choice. The property is owned by an investor who purchased it from one of our previous auctions, which was held actually on January 17, 2017, 3 days before Trump was inaugurated. And that investor is now looking to sell the property.
The 5-bedroom home was built by his late father, Fred, in 1940 and features a fireplace and a narrow driveway. The house was advertised on Airbnb in 2017, the year of Trump's inauguration. Now that it's for sale, some neighbors think the $3 million price tag is too high, since other houses on the street are listed for only about $1.3 million.
And coming up, the Trump administration is sanctioning a Chinese official for persecuting the Falun Gong spiritual group, the first move of its kind. And also coming up, websites banned in China censored in the UK. We find that a Vodafone device blocks websites relating to a peaceful meditation practice. More of that after the break. The Trump administration marked International Human Rights Day by sanctioning a Chinese official for persecuting Falun Gong practitioners. It's the first time the United States has punished a Chinese official for persecuting a spiritual group.
The real
Got a problem?
Just a short one.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says the U.S. will deny entry
But what they don't know, the real name for this thing they call cyberspace is actually pandemonium! What is life without its body? What are the beings of the net if not souls from beyond our plane of existence?
The Chinese regime has been persecuting
I have heard their voices. Let they who yet live never cross that threshold, for their souls will join those ghostly ranks.
This is Night City. No one's got a soul to lose.
Mock as you will, unbeliever. You shall see who laughs last as you're engulfed in hellfire. Satan himself!
Laughs? See, now I'm skeptical. I heard the runner who wrote that Satan demon gave him a weak sense of humor.
You ask, who opened these unholy gates of the abyss?
No one's asking.
And I answered, the techno-necromancers of Alpha Centauri! I recognize you. You come here often. Your eyes tell me that your mind has opened to the truth. Will you provide a humble donation so that I may continue my mission?
It is Friday, December 11th. Let's talk Thursday. Happy Friday, everybody.
You do good work. Use this to wake Night City up.
Thank you for your devotion. I saw a disciple of truth in you from the very beginning. Radio waves bear the truth. Let those with ears listen.
Actually does something. I know with PS4 and support that the life cycle is we're expecting not much here, basically just a system performance improvements. What this does actually, this feature, is disable game chat audio. So this you can add it under sound and device settings in the quick menu. If you were to turn this on, game chat audio will be disabled, so your voice won't be heard, you won't hear other players' voices. This doesn't apply to party chat audio, so the sounds of it, this is really for just
Radio waves bear the truth.
Merde, d'accord, je dois lui parler.
Most players on PS4 throughout this generation just stuck to their party chat and want to interact with friends rather than meet people online. And that's so ironic considering that for PS3, granted that console didn't come with a microphone packed in, so...
How's biz going?
Can't complain. Corporals learn to keep their distance, and Sokka's back hiring lone mercs. They all gotta have the newest, shiniest implants.
Good thing you got Misty here to help. Handles your griping well.
Yeah, renting out her shop's the best decision I ever made.
You know what? Seems like you're the only person in Night City who's happy with this lot.
You get to a certain age, you drop all your illusions. Life just gets easier from there.
PS5 is now up to 20.02, 02.30.00, and if you were to manually install this firmware, which remember, if you buy a PS5 and have one right now, by default the system will update itself in rust mode, so you never even have to really see this stuff anymore. But if you were to manually update, it does give you the ambiguous patch notes of its improvement to overall system performance. But actually, if we do go to PlayStation.com, this is where we get more transparency on what the patch resolves.
Reptilian! You can recognize them by their cold blue eyes. Creatures born centuries ago on the Antarctic ice sheet. They hide their true faces under masks of human skin. Two-faced snakes, oppressors of humanity!
If it's such a big giveaway, won't they just install optics? Or use contact lenses at least?
If it were only so simple! They are reptiles! Their nervous system isn't compatible with human cybernetics.
Then why not have their own rippers invent some?
Are you sure they haven't already? And where did this filth slither out from, you ask?
Antarctica, you said that already.
Today they hide amidst the snow and ice of the South Pole, step by step usurping our crown as creation's chosen. Millions of years ago, they evolved from dinosaurs to become the world's first advanced, intelligent race. And who is their progenitor? Their masters? The scientists of Alpha Centauri! I recognize you. You come here often. Your eyes tell me that your mind has opened to the truth. Will you provide a so that I may continue my mission?
Humble. Sounds affordable. Just don't spend it on stupid shit.
Thank you. This has bought me a day or two. Radio waves bear the truth. Let those with ears listen.
Current gen machines now, PS5 and Xbox Series X, where there's a lot more horsepower, there's more you can do. There's support ray tracing, so Insomniac opted for a fidelity mode where it's 30 FPS, ray tracing, highest resolution, or you can knock back some of that for 60 FPS, and you would lose the ray tracing. That's actually a tough ultimatum, because obviously 60 is great, and most would probably still opt for 60, but don't sleep on ray tracing, because it does look really good for certain games. And for Spider-Man, it looks gorgeous. For certain scenes, it really does shine, and it looks, there's a big difference there. But now you don't have to make that sacrifice. There's an option right down the middle where you can get ray tracing in 60, and the only thing you sacrifice there is a lower base resolution, so it's still dynamic. It will be intensive based on
you know, the image that you're actually displaying for that scene, but it's a dynamic resolution. Looks like there's less pedestrians on screen. The reflections might not be as intensive, but that's a fine compromise for what is really the best of both worlds. I just love that not only are performance settings on consoles getting commonplace, but they're going beyond just two options, because on PS4 Pro X1X, that's really all you could do, is just resolution or frame rate.
Pour l'instant, je peux pas payer la dette, wesh, je me raconte quoi, là.
Some sort of reconstruction method with an unlocked frame rate, which wouldn't be a buttery 60, it would probably be like in the 50s, 40s. Now we're seeing 2, 3, 4 modes with ray tracing. It's just, I love that that's happening.
Comment ça, le parler, ouais.
Looks like that might also be coming as well. Actually, one of our viewers, Paul Lennon, reached out to James Stevens, who is the director at Insomniac Games, and asked, you know, will we get this for the remaster? He gave that inquisitive emoji, like, and it seems like that probably means the other team's working on it, not just yet. So, also, if you're planning on playing that game, you might want to wait, hold off until that update actually gets pushed out.
How's biz
For our
going?
next news story, let's go over some announcements from the Game Awards. The show was last night, of
Corporals
course,
learn to
and this
keep
is
their
something that we
distance,
were
and Sokka's back hiring lone mercs. They all gotta have the new.
We can preface the whole story by saying what didn't show up. For example,
You get to
the Uncharted movie. So I actually thought this had a decent chance of being here, but no. Nolan North was there to present. Tom Holland was there, but no Uncharted movie, no tease, nothing like that. Also, no Silent Hill as well. So this is something where we had a rumor about that. Was not here, and despite the fact that it wasn't here, I can guarantee it.
On va faire notre mission next time now.
And oddly enough, Returnal, which we have some PlayStation news here, a new trailer for Returnal and a release date for this game was finally announced, but the initial trailer for Returnal showed what looked like a very similar scene to PT, where you're approaching a door, although you can see Celine is wearing the astronaut helmet, and so that was kind of a giveaway, but initially that was a quick psych out for a lot of people, like, oh my god, is this Silent Hill? Because it was introed with the PlayStation Studios logo, so you knew it was a Sony IP, but no, it was Returnal, and that is our one news story here, is that Returnal now has a release date, March 19th, 2021, so we knew that was the first half of 2021. We didn't get any updates for Ratchet & Clank. We will be talking about Gran Turismo later, but for right now, at least, Returnal, we have a release date. The new trailer looks really good. I'm loving what I'm seeing so far. Keep in mind, Returnal is a roguelike. It's bullet hell. There's a lot of stuff on screen. It's one of Housemarque's most ambitious games so far, but it's not going to be for everybody. If you dig the footage right now, just keep in mind that it is a roguelike. You'll be restarting if you die. It's the whole premise of that's how they're tying it into the story, but I love the footage that we've seen. It looks really good. Now, for the rest of the show, I mean, we can't go over every single announcement, but just some highlights as a quick recap, because obviously it was a long show. Depending on where you live, it was possibly running over when you were actually sleeping. So, some highlights from the Game Awards. We saw the Callisto Protocol. So this is from the creators of Dead Space, the new studio, Striking Distance Studios, and this game is coming 2022. Basically, this is like a spiritual successor to Dead Space. It's not quite Dead Space 4, but I mean, this is the talent behind that franchise, and while it is a cinematic trailer, and that's not super exciting, and the game is very far away, you're going to want to keep watching this if you at all were interested in Dead Space or that classic, corridor horror. It looks really good. Back 4 Blood. So this is actually, well, more or less like the Dead Space situation. This is our successor to Left 4 Dead, spiritual successor by Turtle Rock Studios. This is coming June 22nd, 2021 for PS4 and PS5. So if you're a PlayStation fan, if you never got the chance to play Left 4 Dead, you'll have an equivalent sequel on PlayStation consoles fairly soon, next year. So they actually showed a cinematic trailer alongside some gameplay, and that also looked really exciting. Season was announced. This is actually only for PlayStation 5. It's described as an atmospheric third-person adventure bicycle road trip game. This may not sound exciting, but it looks beautiful. I'm loving the presentation of this game. I'm into colorful, oddball stuff like this, so it looks really cool. You're playing as a traveler that's recording the last moments of cultures before they vanish. That's basically how it's described, but this is only for PS5 right now. The next Mass Effect was teased, and it looks like Liara is towards the end. You can see her there for a second, and it looks like they're kind of going back to the original Mass Effect trilogy, but taking certain elements of Andromeda and possibly keeping that tied in. Not really sure what's going on, but of course, if you're in Mass Effect, this was big news for you. And if you're into Dragon Age, we also saw that get teased a little bit. Now, I'm not much of the Dragon Age franchise, so at least from the comments I'm reading, people are also very excited to see that. I mean, it wasn't much, but getting anything for this is always a little bit enticing. Joseph Fares brought a new trailer for his co-op game, It Takes Two. This is coming March 26, 2021, PS4 and PS5, and much like A Way Out, there's a friend pass again, so you can buy one copy, play with a friend, because obviously you do need somebody to play the game with, but what a different direction from A Way Out to then this. But there's a lot of humor in here. I'm liking what I'm seeing from this game as well. Fulbright then revealed Open Roads. This is coming for PS4 and PS5. And mind you, a lot of these games are pretty much multi-platform, so you can expect them everywhere if you don't want to play on PlayStation. But this is also really unique art style. Evil West is coming in 2021. That's for PS4 and PS5. And then also the Dead, the game, that's coming in 2021, PS4 and PS5. Then we got Crimson Desert gameplay that's coming winter 2021. This looks really impressive. Obviously, it's early footage.
We're number 48. Check.
48. Rough around the edges, but you can see how this game, once it's cleaned up a little bit, would look fantastic. Then Disco Elysium finally coming March 2021 for PS4 and PS5. Will then come other consoles after the fact. This is a great game. I know next year is very busy and March is looking very busy, but you're going to want to make time for this game. It finally has voice acting on console. It's really good. You're going to want to play that. And then we got Arc 2 announced with Vin Diesel in here. And, you know, I'm watching the show and I'm squinting my eyes. Like, is that Vin Diesel? Like, what a weird, strange, left field announcement. I don't think anybody really saw that coming in here. It's not weird.
How's this work?
Okay, cool. Like,
Any punk off the street can waltz in here, grab some shady running soft?
No, not just any punk. Over the counter, we fix cyber decks. But if you come recommended and you know what you are looking for, I'm sure you will find it.
A lot of nominations going into this.
T-Bug sent me. Said you'd have something for me.
You're V, right? She had me hold the demon for you. It should work on any third-gen deck.
Got a Militech power line. Think it'll do.
Solid gear. For a beginner.
Okay, glad to grab a demon always.
You could test it now. I have an access point. If you'd like, that is. You might extract some shimsoft or subroutines. Seems worth a try, either way.
Last was part 2, I think, what, 7 or 9 awards? It's the most that any game has ever gotten in one show, and it brought home Game of the Year, which we all know where the conversation goes when there's any sort of discussion surrounding this game. There's just a lot of people that are very vocal about hating it or hating the story direction or, you know, bad writing or this, that, and the other. And look, I've laid out my stance on this. I'm in the camp of enjoying it. I thought it was an emotional roller coaster. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. So seeing this award given out, I think it's deserved. And the thing is, I can sympathize with individuals that had a genuine problem with it, you know, because it is a risky, bold story where it plays with beloved characters.
Got anything Nova for sale?
Certainly argue.
You can afford it.
Case against pacing issues or the gameplay being a little bit too bland or this and that. And I've, you know, run a lot of it. I just can't really seem to agree with most of it. I mean, and that's the thing. It's genuine complaints. I can sympathize with those things. That's outside the realm of people that are just genuinely being awful and insidious and, you know, whatever, if it's bigotry or whatever agenda people might have against the game. I mean, that should go without saying that those people are, generally speaking, being very awful. But, you know, if you're vocally very outwardly against this game, I mean, at a certain point, and this is just my advice, if you do fall in this camp, you gotta let it go. At a certain point, I mean, yeah, you didn't like it, didn't land with you. I mean, you just have to kind of say, look, maybe their next game will be better, or maybe I'll just stop buying Naughty Dog products in general, and, you know, be done with it, right? I mean, we got to stop harassing Naughty Dog, or, you know, everybody that works there, the actors, the actresses, they worked hard on it. May not have worked out for you, but you got to let it go. So I think it was, you know, deserved for them. I would have also liked to see Ghost of Tsushima take it. Hades would have been really cool. A part of me was thinking that Animal Crossing was going to take it, actually, because that game just, you know, for what happened, what played out this year, that was such a comfort game that I think worked for so many people. It's very rare that we have so many nominations where I think it really would work for anybody. There is always the conversation every single year of, oh, this got snubbed, that'll always happen. But I think this year it really could have went either way. But a lot of us also saw a mile away that The Last of Us Part 2 was going to be taking home, at least a few of these awards, if not Game of the Year. Anyway, getting into our next news story, and actually in keeping with Naughty Dog news, the company's overall structure has changed a little bit, so Neil Druckmann has been promoted to co-president of Naughty Dog alongside Evan Wells, and filling in his previous role, well, now 2 roles of vice president. That's Alison Morty and Christian Gerling. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly, but that is what we're looking at right now. Keep in mind, Evan Wells is still co-president. He's going to be producing on Last of Us HBO series. Neil Druckmann, not only is he writing alongside Craig Mazin on the HBO series, but he's also confirmed he will continue writing and directing while helping mentor the next wave of creators, is what he says. So it almost sounds as though this might be more of a long-term transitional period. You got to remember that Evan's been with the company for a very long time, and I'm kind of shocked that this wasn't more a matter of, oh yeah, I'll be leaving so he can take over completely. But again, there might be a long-term thing.
Enterrer les cibles très efficaces, quoi.
When you're doing this many things, like writing, producing, and then writing for the series as well, the HBO series. I mean, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of different layers, and from Neil's wording, it almost sounds like maybe down the road, 2 projects down the road, he'll be hands-off for actually working on games and then just overseeing the overall company dynamics in general. That's where Evan Wells could lead. That's just a theory, of course, but it seems like that might be what is taking place here. So either way, congrats to everybody. Congrats to Neil. Congrats to Allison. Congrats to Christian. Will probably still be a long time before we see like an original PS5 project from the ground up. But at this point right now, for Naughty Dog News, we're still waiting for factions and potentially some sort of soft or full native release of Part 2 on PlayStation 5, which you would think is a natural expectation. Next up, we've got some interesting stories here that we just had to touch on. Like recently, SNL ran a skit about PlayStation 5. It was actually a Stan parody. If you are an Eminem fan or used to listen to some of the older school hip-hop, which for me, I love 80s, 90s, and 1000s hip-hop. I grew up with a lot of that stuff, so. And I don't really watch SNL, but this skit is a parody of Stan, where it's called Stew, so Pete Davidson and Grim Ness. I can't really show direct footage, I'm probably showing some shots, but it's all about him trying to get a PlayStation 5 for Christmas, which it almost comes off like a paid promotion, but I highly doubt Sony wants this kind of publicity. Or, well, it's good publicity no matter what, but they don't really want to promote the fact that people can't buy the console anymore. So, but this was like such a. I thought this was really funny. So you've got that happened alongside what appears to be a string of robberies in the UK, which is being reported. PlayStation 5s, alongside other consumer electronics and cosmetics as well, those can be very valuable. But it seems like within the last few months, since September, there's been about 27 to 30 robberies. Where it happens on the highway, I guess. So when a truck's traveling on the road, a car will pull up in front and one in the rear, and they'll try to break into the back and then take off with all the goods. It seems crazy. I guess this is like a huge issue out there, though, and truck couriers are being briefed on this and what to look out for. And so PS5, of course, is a valuable item in this area. Like these news stories, it's like Sony doesn't really want this kind of publicity, but at the same time, PS5 is just it's crazy how much mindshare this console is sharing amongst consumers. It's just nothing like what Microsoft is saying, and this is really what.
Non, moi, t'as ceux-là, putain, ouais.
You know, the point we've been drilling for the past year or so on this channel. I mean, it was always anybody's race when it comes to, you know, this consumer goods, electronic, that brand loyalty is one thing, but it won't probably mess it up too much. Obviously, you know, as the news cycle is starting, we're hearing more and more about the overall approach between consumers and values that start putting catastrophic to the overall
Hey, yourself?
success of the PS5 deliveries. So, again, we've got more indicators that this is a hot console, it's going to sell like crazy, maybe supply will be constrained for 2021. I really want to see what that first quarter will look like. I think it might still be pretty tough. Next up, if you recall, I think it was 3 weeks ago now at this point.
Is it just me, or does that burger have a tail?
For a bunch of software
It's a kid's meal. Kids like surprises.
It talked about the release windows for some of these games, and Gran Turismo 7 was one of them.
Got anything tasty and quick?
It's like they say, you either get tasty or you get quick. Here you get full spread, 2 in 1.
It's been altered to now say Gran Turismo 7 is just in development for PlayStation. So that was our first indicator from this week. Then we had a new trailer that Sony uploaded, and it's definitely brand new. It's totally different, with a new updated timeline of this Gran Turismo 7 in 2021. So some mixed messaging there, of course, but at least what it seems like that this game had some sort of internal and targeted of the first half of pushed back a little bit. Just launch the entire week. So right now we're going to get that first half. So it's like, we don't really know, of course, but it seems pretty deliberate to change that old trailer and then this new one, of course, just saying straight up 2021. So, and not terrible news, of course, because remember, 2021 is looking really good right now. Gran Turismo 7 is a very important franchise for PlayStation. To have a major entry in this franchise come so soon within a brand new console launch for Sony is something we haven't seen in a very long time. So, still the console okay. Now, this same new trailer also told us that Project Athia from Square Enix, this is apparently a time exclusive for at least 24 months, which is nuts. I mean, that's a long time. So Sony has obviously secured a very favorable deal to them, to where at a certain point, and that's the thing is, I mean, time exclusives are really annoying. It doesn't matter what camp you're in, because you know that it's coming, but you just have to wait for it. It's like, really, is that really super beneficial to the hardware manufacturer? But it's, 2 years is significant. That's going to be a long wait if you're looking to play that game on, say, Xbox or anything. Now, with all that said, it's time to get to Let's Talk Plus, our weekly Let's Talk PlayStation giveaway, where one of you can put a $10 PSN code. I would like to congratulate this viewer right here. I'll be contacting you very soon via email or Twitter. If you would like to win a $10 PSN code, it's very easy. Follow the link down below. We do this every single week on Let's Talk PlayStation. Supporting this channel, a number of ways can gain you an entry, and I'll announce the winner next week because I'm trying to pay for your games. Those are all the news stories that I want to talk about to you all. Our Tuesday video was a UI rundown from PS3, 4, and 5. Kind of a walk down memory lane, but also comparing sort of the prioritization of certain features, things that were expanded, removed. Really interesting topic, I felt, so go check that out. Coming up, we've got probably a week where we'll do 3 uploads, including LTPS, so if that is the case, you'll see something on Monday, then Wednesday, and of course, we'll be here every single Friday like we always have. And that's it. That concludes this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Ryan Benecki. Thank you all so much for talking with me, and I will see you all next Friday.
I know where I'm gonna strike before I do it. Typical. Knew I'd say that.
Good for a fight. Which one of you's my guy?
Me!
Wasn't expecting a tag team, but whatever, I guess. So, who do I got first?
No. You don't get it. That body and this one, I'm the same person.
So, what? I'm seeing double?
I used to be twins, which you could probably guess. The twins had a close bond. They wanted to be closer, stronger. So they installed neural oscillation sinks. And now they're, well, me. One person, two bodies. My bodies do everything together. Everything.
You really do everything together. Even under the sheets?
I have one girlfriend for both bodies. If that's what you're asking. Shared between both.
So, what? One takes waist up and the other's on booty duty?
No. She's with one body Monday through Wednesday, and the other Wednesday through Sunday. Frick.
I guess it fucked you two up.
Not you two. It's just me. And where's the sportsmanship? Sheesh. Come back when you wise up. Be waiting.
J'ai pas de thunes. Putain, je vais dans les activités sans avoir de la thune, je crois. Oh shit, il me fait mal, là.
7299 for a chance to win a one-week getaway for two at the Crystal Palace.
Bon, il est où son putain d'appartement là? Tu peux rien raconter. Un pote, il est des psychopathes, wesh. Ah voilà, mon petit chez moi, allez hop. Je vais chez moi. Je vais arrêter là. Ça va. En fait, la PS4, ça va trop lent, genre, par rapport au jeu, je crois. Je sais pas si c'est pour ça que ça bug, mais... Ah, fuck. C'était en haut.
Hey, wait!
Je recule, motherfucker, je recule. Il y a un problème là. Il y a un problème là. Il y a un problème, motherfucker. Je recule. Elle faut enculer. Ok. Il est où le parking? Ah, il est là le parking.
My Jewish rumors and rumors, Mr. Whitey here. Drop that milk toast kibble and rush to the nearest store for a taste of sweet, 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 clean speed. This life is too short to be slow.
Wow, 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 le lag et le bug, mon frère, wesh. Un truc de fou. Pas abusé non plus, ouais.
It's all a shitstorm anyway.
¿Llegaste hace poco?
Genre, il y a eu un meurtre ici.
At all foods, nature comes first. From the very first Mother Nature can everything. Try out our freshly developed new tastes and let your tongue be amazed. All
Comment ça tu t'endors, toi? Tu t'es levé à quelle heure, toi? À quelle heure? Ah ouais, bah ouais, bon, ouais. Et t'as joué toute la journée, genre? Ah, toi, je vais faire une attaque terroriste sur tes plannings de sport, là. Comment ça m'énerve, là, salope. Bah ouais mec, tu m'étonnes que ça fatigue, salope. C'est du sport, c'est obligé de te fatiguer. Ça fait travailler tout le corps. Bah tu m'étonnes. Moi il va falloir que je me remette au sport là, tu vois. Pour perdre du ventre, tu vois. Bien maigrir.